So we know so far that the consciousness formula is neutrino and crystal. Neutrino being the data potential and the crystal being the potential form or the potential imitation personality. It is the interaction between these two actually leads to the creation of the Maya, of the illusion, of the projection. However, I think a really integral, important component to talk about here is the magnetic monopole. Because if it wasn't for the magnetic monopole, none of this would be organized together in the way that it is organized. A magnetic monopole is a dark matter instrument that each one of us carries within us. It is located in the second gate in the G center, right where our sternum is. And essentially, this is what coordinates our individual existence in relationship with the larger existence. When a neutrino moves through a crystal, and again, this happens one neutrino at a time, even though we are having an experience of interacting with trillions of neutrinos. But the process of a neutrino interacting with a crystal happens one neutrino at a time. Another interesting thing to also note here is that different crystals receive neutrinos from different angles. For example, human beings receive it at an 88-degree angle from above. However, plants actually receive their conditioning from the earth. And again, this is something that we're going to talk about later. But it's interesting to note that neutrinos interact with different crystals differently. So when a neutrino passes through a crystal, the first interaction of the neutrino with the crystal is at the base. And this interaction creates a certain kind of frequency. When a neutrino interacts with the base, it is oriented in a specific way. It's given a certain dimension. And this is the function of the base. And then as the neutrino moves through the crystal itself, it interacts with the inner frequency, which is called tone, which gives it a certain kind of architecture, or let's just say, gives it a certain kind of cognition or intelligence. And then as this frequency is passing through the crystal, it exits from a specific place of the crystal, which is the exit place, which is called the color. It's an exit frequency. And this very exit frequency, which gives it a very special color, is then captured by the magnetic monopole, which is a magnet with only one pole, meaning that essentially its only function is to attract. So it pulls in this frequency that is coming through the crystal and projects it out in the world. This is what creates the individual projection of consciousness, the individual projection of form, the individual projection of intelligence. When we really understand this, we understand that why people say life is an illusion, or why Ra talks about the world and calls it a Maya. And essentially, Maya in Sanskrit means illusion. It's because whatever we see, whatever we can touch, whatever we experience doesn't actually exist there in the form that we think it does or that we experience it as. It's actually just a massive projection field. I am a projection of neutrinos interacting with my design crystal and my personality crystal. I am the quantum of the two. I am a quantum projection of the crystals within me. And all of this is coordinated by the magnetic monopole. This is why Ra says that the magnetic monopole is responsible for holding together the illusion of our separateness. And what that essentially means is that it is the magnetic monopole that gives us mass, that gives us this illusion of form. And essentially, what everything really is frequency, you know? Um, I look solid to you and I look this way to you, and my features look the way that they do. It's because I'm a very specific frequency. And that frequency has a certain kind of density which you can experience, which you can see. This mic that I'm speaking into, it is the way that it is, and it does what it does is because it has a specific frequency. And it's not that it's solid, it's just that it appears so because of how densely it is packed or how densely held it is by its magnetic monopole. It is the magnetic monopole's job to ensure that the way that it sets up the Maya, the way that it sets up the individual illusion and the collective illusion, is that no two things can exist at the same place at the same time. This is why, even when you're in the same place with other people, you're not really in the same place. It's because I'm a separate illusion and you're a separate illusion, and we exist in this larger illusion. We exist in this larger projection field. So the Maya is nothing but a massive projection field, an interaction between the neutrinos, the crystals of consciousness, and the magnetic monopole coordinating this entire projection. And the other thing that the magnetic monopole does, other than holding us together in the illusion of our separateness, is that it leads us along our lines of geometry, right? It is the driver of form consciousness. It is what knows the way. It is what knows where it is going. And you can kind of understand that if its job is to make sure that your illusion of separation, that your individual form and your individual consciousness actually has its individual unique place in the Maya itself, that of course that it is the one that's coordinating the movement. It is the one that's saying, yeah, we go right. We do this thing or we don't do this thing. And this is why Ra stresses so heavily on strategy and authority, because it is strategy and authority that can actually be representative of your entire quantum, of the quantum of your design, of your form, and the quantum of your personality or imitation personality, right? It is the thing that captures the color frequency, not just from the design crystal, but also from the personality crystal, and combines it together to create the holistic you, to create the illusion that is you, and to create the illusion that is around you, and to place you exactly where you need to be in order to fulfill your unique purpose. And now we can sort of begin to grasp life isn't really what it appears to be. I'm not really what I appear to be. You're not really what you appear to be. And essentially, all of this is one big fat orchestra between crystals of consciousness and neutrinos and magnetic monopoles that are coordinating this entire play. Essentially, life is just an interaction between hardware and software, and what we experience is just a projection of that. You know how in a projector, the projector itself is the hardware, and then you put software into it and data into it, and then it shows you a movie. It's not like that movie is actually happening. It's just that you're seeing it in that way. It's just the interaction between the hardware and the software that is making life come alive, that is making my movie come alive, that is making your movie come alive, that is coordinating our movies. And then you'd think, like, oh, this is such a massive play. Like, this is such a massive show. This is such a massive orchestra. And for it to really function in a way that it needs to. And again, let's not forget what the goal of this entire orchestra is. The goal of this entire orchestra is to develop a form that can actually house consciousness, is to empower this universe with consciousness, is to create the ajna center of this universe so that it can house a consciousness that can make conscious decisions for itself, where the consciousness itself becomes responsible for the form, right? Where it's not just the form imitating to be a personality and to play around with the kind of decisions that this personality can make. It's not about that. That's the process. That's how we get there. What it's about is to actually develop the physical vehicle, the physical body of this universe to the point where a conscious personality that can be in charge of this universe can actually come in, can actually reside, right? And this is why this entire orchestra is even happening. And for it to get to that end goal, you understand that there needs to be a lot of coordinating mechanisms. There need to be a lot of programming agencies that enforce the program, that enforce the learnings, that enforce the patterns that the larger form is learning through its experimentation. And again, it's not all just happening on the whim. It is a whole larger evolutionary process. And this larger evolutionary program for life on Earth is what Ra called the Global Consciousness Program. And it is this program that impacts humanity and all other life forms at large, so that everything that's existing on planet Earth can slowly develop towards a form that can house a sophisticated consciousness. This isn't really a program that impacts us individually per se, but think of it as like an umbrella consciousness program around of civilization. And this global program on Earth for us started in 16,513 BC, and it's going to end in the year 3262. One round, approximately, like I said, consists of 20,000 years. This is one round of evolutionary program. The voice also told Ra one round of evolutionary program contains 6 epochs, which contains 8 cycles each. So the entire evolutionary round, or the entire round of civilization, consists of 48 global cycles, and one global cycle is approximately 400 years. So I think a lot of you will know currently we are in the global cycle of the cross of planning, and in 2027 we're actually moving into the global cycle of the cross of the sleeping phoenix. So there is this larger evolutionary global program that commands all life forms on the planet to grow and evolve in a certain way to reach the end goal of developing a sophisticated form that actually can house different kinds of consciousness. And the global program actually follows the precession of the equinoxes, meaning that in the wheel, the precision of the equinox moves clockwise instead of anti-clockwise. We know that there's another program, a transit program, a local planetary program that impacts us all individually and moves us individually, that actually moves anti-clockwise. And the degree to which that program moves is 88 degrees, which is why we experience diverse conditioning. But the global conditioning program, because it moves with the precision of the equinoxes, it moves clockwise and it moves at a 90-degree angle, which means that the conditioning that we receive from the global consciousness program is actually relatively fixed. And there isn't any mutation really in the global consciousness program. Think of it like this massive umbrella program that is taking care of the big picture, and then the planetary transit program underneath it that is kind of working with individuals to get them to follow a certain larger plan through its own unique, smaller, individual mutative mechanics. The Global Consciousness Program actually moves relatively slower than the planetary transit program. We know that the moon changes position sometimes even 3 times in a day. So our daily planetary transit program is something that's quite fast moving, whereas the global consciousness program is something that changes approximately every 400 years, where there's a different age that comes about on the planet. It is important to mention that the keys change every 400 years, but actually the line of the keys changes approximately, I think, around 70-ish years. So right now, we're in the global consciousness program of the line 1. So every single key right now is in line 1. And essentially what that means is that this is a time, this is an age in which foundations and growing strong foundations and investigation and information is actually quite relevant. But actually, in 2027, we're going to be moving into sixth line world, which means that knowledge is not necessarily going to be something that gets epitomized, but actually it's going to be about who you really are and how you live as yourself in the world. It is about being a role model. Now, an important thing to note here is that this global consciousness program is enforced within all of us through the G Center. And it is the gates of the G Center that become the locks of the global consciousness program. And then it is the rest of the hexagrams on the mandala that act as keys during different times in the evolutionary program. It's really important to see the role that the magnetic monopole plays in the coordination of this entire orchestra and how it is the G Center itself that enforces the global consciousness program. We see now that it is the Rave Mandala that is like a pictorial representation of the program and the way in which it works. And one of the things that was so fascinating for me to understand was that it's not like the Rave Mandala exists somewhere out there in the sky. It's not like that. The Rave Mandala is within us. It's within me. It's within you. It's within our genetic code. So there isn't really actually a physical Rave Mandala in the sky somewhere. It's in your genes. It's in your cells. It's you. It is us that are being programmed by the program, that are agents of the program, that are enforcing the program, that are participating in the program. It's all us. It's all us. I wanted to read you this quote from Ra. When the human genetic code was discovered, they discovered that it works in the same mathematical framework as the I Ching is structured. In other words, the I Ching has 64 hexagrams, and in our genetics, we have what's called 64 codons. Now, codons are chemical groupings, and what these chemical groupings actually do is that they synthesize for the amino acids that are going to produce the DNA, that are going to produce the genetic material itself. So, when we're looking at these 64 hexagrams, what we're looking at is the basic chemical framework of everything that's going to be synthesized, ultimately into genes. What I'm trying to illustrate to you through this is that whether it's our imprinting or it's the Global Consciousness Evolutionary Program or it's the local planetary transit program, that all of this is actually coming through the mandala, and that actually the mandala isn't really something that exists out there. It's actually within us. It's within our DNA, or in a sense that it actually is synthesized into our DNA. So the programming that we receive, the conditioning that we receive, it's genetic conditioning. Let's talk about this global consciousness program that is cellularly moving us all in a certain direction. I mentioned that the gates of the G Center are the locks of the global consciousness program. And if you really look at the mandala and you look at the gates of the G Center, what you'll notice is that the next 7 gates, so 8 gates including the lock, actually share the lower diagram, which means there is a common genetic denominator amongst all of these gates. And this is how the program is spread throughout humanity, throughout everything that exists. The gates of the G Center become the locks, they hold the program in its place, and the keys, which keep changing every 400 years, actually bring in the program that time of that age. So, for example, anybody in humanity carrying any of the gates of the G Center would be operating as locks of the consciousness program, locking people into the larger program. And anybody that has the keys are actually instruments of the consciousness program of that age coming through. For example, I have gate 13 in my chart. It is the only G center gate that I have. And this is where I become an agent of the program and hold other people into the larger consciousness program. I also have a significant number of keys to the consciousness program that is coming in 2027. So, in essence, I not only hold people to the program, but after 2027, I am going to be a medium through which it comes to life. Some people are lock people, some people are key people, some people are lock and key. We all have our individual role to play, even in the larger scheme of things. And no matter how much we want to individuate, the truth, the reality is that we are in a large controlling program that not only controls us when we are awake, but also controls us when we are asleep, that is doing whatever it needs to do to ensure that the larger evolution for which this entire experiment, this entire orchestra is put into place actually comes to life. And it comes to life through us. We are, like I mentioned before, cells in the ajna gland of the universe that wants to wake up as a conscious universe. And this is where all of our ideas of free will and having any real choice or really having a say in the play just fall apart, because when you really understand the ways in which we are managed and controlled and moved, you understand that it's not up to us to control where we're headed or to decide what we want to do. It's up to us to be good passengers. It's up to us to be able to enjoy the experience that we're having because, yeah, it doesn't seem like we have much control over any of it, really. And right now, we're talking about the management of us and the management of everything that exists on the planet through this larger evolutionary program. But we also have a localized planetary control mechanism. We also have transauric forms like the penta and the va through which we are put in our correct place. You can't really have a liver cell in the ajna or a neuron in your foot. You know what I mean? Like we all have a place in this larger entity and we all have a role. And it seems like we don't really have much of a choice than to be in our life and its experience and to learn to enjoy it for what it is. Let's also have a deeper look at the Global Consciousness Program because when you have a deeper look at it, you really understand how and why it's different from your local transitory program. Because when you look at the global program, you see that there is a total of 16 crosses that show up in the Global Consciousness Program. As I mentioned before, that this is a program that works at a 90-degree angle rather than an 88-degree angle. And this leads to it being a rather rigid program. You will see repetition of crosses after crosses. You will see repetition of what gates appear in what locks. And so we can really see how rigid and set in stone this program is versus our local planetary transit program, which ebbs and flows, and you get a lot of different experiences through it. What this shows us is that there's a lot more diversity locally in terms of how a form can display consciousness here and the different diversity of consciousness that can exist here versus the larger program, which is rather rigid in some sense because it's focused on a larger goal of preparing the universe for a conscious personality. Now, we are going to look at the cross of planning, this 400-year cycle that we've been in since 1615, and the cycle that we're going to enter into in 2027. And we're also going to be looking at the cross of contagion and the cross of explanation. These are cycles that come in after the cross of the sleeping phoenix, and see how the larger evolutionary program develops and what forms come into being and what kind of consciousness they actually begin to house.